All right, how's it going? So we're gonna be going over an Asia session strategy. Gonna be a little different than the way I normally trade on ES or any of the forex pairs. Personally, I don't trade Asia session, but I know there is people out there who, for whatever reason, you can't get to the charts on New York or London session, and this is literally the only time in your day that you'll have to trade. And obviously, you don't want to be, on the charts trying to trade while you're at work, like in the middle of doing your job or like on your lunch break, that type of thing. So, yeah, this is basically how Asia price action ends up playing out. And before I go over this, the reason I don't trade Asia session is usually because, let me go over here, actually get the path going. Usually this is Asia session. It's kind of small price action. Then this is London session. Kind of comes out and manipulates it. And then New York will usually come and retest an area and then distribute or, distribute out this way. So as you can see, London and New York will have way bigger price action, way more volume than Asia session. But this is just a way you can trade within kind of that accumulation, because if you're entering swings during Asian session, odds are London session is going to stop you out due to Judas swing. Asia accumulates, London will manipulate out those highs or lows and then continue in the direction market wants to go into. But yeah, as for the session strategy, this is basically how it's going to play out. So get rid of these real quick. Right here, this is New York session, and right here, let's just say, let me go in here and draw a little bit more of a path. Let's just say this is New York session, and right here at 21 UTC, that is when New York session stops. So this is the close of New York session. Whatever price this closes at, odds are Asia session will generally respect that level, give a reaction, or end up pushing through it, retesting, and then going back and going down and so on. So usually I don't play it when it completely disrespects it and then retests it. I like to play it, it's more high probability when it just taps into the zone of New York closing price and respects it with a break of structure. So basically, you'll mark out this with a line or a box, I'll show you, and then you wait for the first macro in Asia session, which is basically kind of that opening hour of expansion of price. And then right after that, usually the 45 minutes after that, you'll see a retest of this zone. And if you get a reaction with a break of structure, clear displacement, and then a fair value gap to form off of that retest, usually I'd enter off the fair value gap. And then if not, you can enter off of the ITOB, which is usually going to be an order block of price retesting that fair value gap. And that will be your potential second entry, is the internal order block there. So that's pretty much the basics of the strategy. Kind of similar to forex strategy, but instead of previous session highs and lows, it's just going to be bouncing off one area. And for this, I really don't take too much of a bias, because London session can manipulate either way out of Asian session. But let's just take an example here. This is one you guys may have seen from the TikTok. But yeah, we'll just go over it in full. We'll delete all this stuff. But as you can see, New York closing price, kind of give a reaction off this level, retest, and up and so forth. But we'll take a look at that one at the end. I do want to start with SPX. So let's start right here. So obviously, first order of business, you want to mark out kind of this area from Asia open to the New York close. So here we have 21 right here, and you want to not pay attention to anything that goes on within this hour, because this is what we call spread hour. This is basically where the spread on your brokers is going to be ridiculous, and you don't want to have, limit orders set in here or anything, because it can get really fucked up. So don't mind this price action. It's pretty dead. Just pay attention to what happens in Asia session. But as we can see, New York session, up, down, yada, yada. Where does New York price close? New York closes right here. That's the exact level that we end the New York session. So what I do is I mark that out with a line, and I can also mark out the full candle just with a box here, because you'll see sometimes it goes a little past it, sometimes it doesn't get all the way into it. But yeah, just mark out that last candle of New York session with a box there. Let me close that out. Okay, so yeah, that's the first step. Mark out that New York last candle. Step 2, you want to wait for that first macro. Usually it won't hit immediately. You'll have that first macro of kind of chop or expansion, and then you'll want to wait for a retest into this zone. And I like to trade this on the 3-minute time frame. And this can change, like with gold. It does work a little better on the 1 minute. If your fair value gap is not present on the 3 minute, maybe go down to the 1 minute and try and find it. But yeah, generally during Asian session, ideally I'd like to stay on higher time frames, but Asia session volume's not very high. It's kind of chop, really small volume, so it's okay to stay on these lower time frames. But mark that out. Step 1, mark it out. Step 2, we get a clear reaction off of that level, that New York closing price. And what do we see right here? Let me get rid of this. Just like any other strategy, we have a low and a high. That's our low. What happens right after we tap into this level? Boom. Break of market structure to the downside. So if you want to, you can enter off the break of structure 2, 3, 4, 5, say 5 ticks above that, and then target a 1-to-1 for your first one. Order block can be the second one right here, and then you can target these lows, even these lows and these lows down here. But you can enter off a break of structure, but most of the time the fair value gap is going to be a safer entry. So what we can do, that displacement from that break of structure, we have a fair value gap. As you can see, we end up retesting that, so you can get short when price taps back into the fair value gap. 5 points above the high right there, and again, you can target this order block as your first take profit right here, then the lows, yada, yada, yada. Just make sure you trim over a 1-to-1 for this strategy and all the strategies I teach. But yeah, so that's basically it. As you can see, this one would have played out pretty decently. Comfortable stop, take profit 1, take profit 2. TP3 can be at this low, TP4 can be all the way down here, and that can be a final. So would have went down, hit 3 take profits before ending up stopping us at break even up here. But as you can see, this provides a pretty decent risk to reward ratio. Let's go and hop on a different pair. We'll look on our 3 pairs for this. So let's go and hop onto gold. Let's see here. Yep, right here. Okay. First order of business, 2100. Asia open at 0-0. We have the spread hour, but what do we want to do? Mark out the candle that closed out New York here, and then you can also mark the exact price if you want to be more specific. But as we can see, Asia opens, we come down into here, we do break a little bit below it, but we're generally respecting this level. As we can see, right when we kind of take out all these internal lows and this low right here, we end up breaking structure, high, low. What do we have? Displacement and a break of structures to the upside. So that can be your entry here, because this is generally a good risk to reward. Have your stop, a little safer down here. Don't have it exactly at the low. Have it down a little bit, and then obviously, where's that most recent high? You can take profits at here, 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 here. Take profits at highs. And as you can see, Asia's session with gold generally moves a little bit better than other pairs, but with here, let's say I wasn't able to get in off the break of structure, I could target this fair value gap. That one didn't hit. Where's my next one? This one, that one didn't hit. Where's my next one? We don't have one, so let's go down to the 1 minute and see if we can find where we may have found a better entry. So yeah, that's why I said you can trade gold on the 1 minute. Our break of structure is still this big displacement candle, so you can say, okay, this fair value gap is in line with the top of that New York closing price, so that could be my entry right there. RR isn't as great, but as you can see, you can still take that fair value gap retest. Let's go into GBPUSD and we'll finish off with GBPJPY. So I want to jump onto the 3 minute. Let's see over here. I believe this is what we're looking at. Yep. So what do we see here? Step one again. Mark out end of New York, start of Asia session. What candle closes out New York? Right here. Mark that out. What do we see happen? Asia session opens. We tap into this area. And what do we get? Low, high, boom. Break of structure right here. Beautiful RR here. Short. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every stop above there. Take profit 1 at these lows. Take profit 2 down at this unmitigated balanced price range right here. And then these lows can be your take profit 3. If you want to have a stretch, put them at these lows. And as you can see, hit this take profit and then stopped at break even. But if you were just going for one take profit, obviously you'd have your stop a little higher and you could target these lows. But as you can see, ends up coming out sweeping this high, still respecting that level. And then London session goes on to displace in that direction. But same thing, just respecting that New York level, not really taking into account too much bias. You can if you'd like, but yeah, just because Asian session is generally trades in a little bit of a range, you can kind of go whatever way it respects it. So let's finish off with GBPJPY. And I want to go over one that obviously this isn't going to happen every single session. Like as you see here, this is our candle that closed. Price went up, didn't quite tap into that zone. Went up again, didn't quite tap into that zone. So you don't always get it before Asia session ends. So some sessions, just like other ones, you'll be caught just looking at the charts for a little bit, which is kind of just how it goes. But let's look at another one that plays out very nicely here. And I'll kind of go more into detail about this one right here. So like I said, you can enter off that fair value gap or you can enter off order blocks. So right here with this entry, before I delete everything, we can see there is a fair value gap here, but there's also an order block because highs low, broke structure, swept out these equal lows, clear order block. Price taps back into here. We can wait for the 0.5, which if you want to go ICT terms, consequential enroachment is if it does go past that 0.5 and closes below it, it's less likely to play out. But as we can see here, it did respect that 0.5 of the order block, kind of the 50% range. So that could be an entry. This one provides a 10-to-1 RR here. So that's definitely a great place to take it. But I'm going to keep my take profits here and delete all this and just go through one more example here for you guys. Boom, 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 delete. I'm just going to move this over here so I don't have to type it out. And again, this is how you can pair this with other confluences. But yeah, let's go over the basics first. So what do we have? New York closes right here. Mark that out with our box here. And that will be our New York closing price, New York session closing price there. So as we can see, price it's a little bit below it, but we do displace above it kind of right as the session begins, but that's super early into the session. I want to wait for price to retest this zone and continue back up. And as we can see, we do have lows down here, formed equal lows right here. We go in, price does break down a little bit from this session, but as we can see, right when these equal lows are swept, we instantly get that break of structure to the upside. So we have our highs and our lows right here. Price break structure above. Okay, great. Maybe RR isn't the best here just off the break of structure. It's not bad, but maybe I want to wait for a better one because maybe I don't want to trim right at these highs. Maybe I want to trim right here. Just in general, want a better risk to reward for our final take profit. What can we wait for? First thing we can wait for is a retest of this displacement fair value gap here. So as you can see, this could be another entry long when we get within the fair value gap. Same stop, better RR. And then again, if we want an even better RR from that, because we have a clear order block, we swept out liquidity, we can mark that out and find entry within there. And I picked the equilibrium of it basically. Get a lot better of a risk to reward ratio there. Because we already broke structure, right? We're just waiting for a retest. And this is where the ITOB comes in as well. Let's say you missed that entry too. You can wait for another internal order block right here, which this isn't exactly a valid one, but just for, purposes, let's just say this is our valid order block, our next high, our next higher low, our next higher low that got formed. It formed an order block. We broke structure out of here. Let's just say this is how we're marking it out. As we can see, this could be our potential second entry. Price retaps into this zone, stop low there, target at least a 1-to-1. So that's basically the second part of that entry. If you do miss the first one, just look for an order block off of that initial retest of that fair value gap, basically. So yeah, pretty simple strategy. It's kind of like the Forex pair strategy, but you're just playing off that New York session closing price. So yeah, that's pretty much all it is. Again, let's just look at SPX just so you guys can remember the visual. Trade this off the 3-minute, 1 minute if you really need to, but mark that session closing candle with a box, wait for price to retap into that break of structure, take it off the break of structure. The risk to reward is bad. Wait for a retest of that fair value gap or a retest of that second order block that is formed. So if you guys have any questions, slide them in the comments, slide them in the Discord. I will be posting a few just back testing trade breakdowns on this in the premium. And yeah, I'll be live trading tomorrow and pretty much all of next week. Now that news is kind of over for the week. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments.